Mr. Adakole Ijogi. He's joining us in the conversation this morning. Mr. Ijogi, it's good to have you join us this Monday morning. So, first, many other economists have said this is what is required for the country to begin to look up. The economy to begin to look up. Let's do the right things now. The economy to begin to look up. Let's do the right things now. Let's put in place policy hurtful in the short term, but eventually would benefit the country. What is your argument as regards the state of the Nigerian economy? Oh, again, it happens. Would have to reconnect with Mr. 88. You can send SMS and WhatsApp messages to 09097054450. My guest, what is happening? Anyway, with the borrow Sachs as well as JP Morgan of the
Yes, whereby we say that we have the government of the nation that are governing us. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. I can hear you.
So, there will be a day in this country, this land that we are marching upon, will swallow me and whosoever. And nobody will say, I'm feeling pain of the heaviness of that ground. Whatever we may fire on this world, there we will leave it
All
and
right,
go
Paul.
to where we did not even know about it.
All right. Thank you
So,
very much, Paul.
for good 3 years, to use
the line into maybe inflationary trends, just like you have with the removal of subsidy or the floating of the naira. All these things will continue, and at the end of the day, it reduces the purchasing power of Nigerians. I have Nigerian currency, the naira. I have postulated, and I still maintain, that until we find a solid base for backing and stabilizing the value of the Nigerian currency, we will always drift into poverty. Do more, not this knee-jerk approach. There are just so much unanswered questions that some of us think that we need to be transparent as possible. Go to the CBN. We're just finding out in our results. It's down to like, what do you call it, 18 billion. That means it's international trade, our current account. That 18 billion can't even last a quarter. A quarter is 3 months. And that is where we're living very, very dangerously. So, my dear brother, I think that this current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to roll up its sleeves and start planning and taking the right policy choice, not this knee-jerk after thought something. You put military intervention in Niger before dialogue and diplomacy. No, we need to have a clear policy on to say this is what will benefit Nigerians. This is what we are going to do. If we're removing subsidy, this is how much we are going to remove, and provide economic justice. If you say that only a handful of the elites were benefiting from the subsidy regime, and you said it was dubious, it was corrupt, what happened to punishing those people who have plundered the system? So, I mean, there's just so much that just needs to be done to get Nigeria going. And the painful part of this whole issue is that Nigerians are hungry. Nigerians are suffering. Their hardship is biting harder. It is something that every responsible leader who has a pick up, and we must all put our hands together to ensure that this economy doesn't slide further into the doldrums. We need to do certain things fast. I'm sure we'll come to that, what needs to be done, how to stop the hemorrhaging of the Nigerian economy.
I'm interested in being the practice over time. We've applied bandages and all, and now it's time to just rip off the bandage and ensure that things work. That before now, what the CBN has done with the ways and means, for instance, with the constant borrowing, just to make sure that it looks like there's money or the things are working, was all a charade just to make governments look good and save face. But this time around, it seems like President Tinubu is out to ensure that things are done properly and done right. Because, for instance, taking loans and the CBN giving providing ways and means to the press to the federal government to the tune of over 20 billion naira shows that the financials have just shown that, look, we were just printing monies from thin air. There was nothing to back it up, just because we wanted government or federal government to look good and be able to meet the budget deficits. If we're financing our budgets from such borrowings, what does that leave the nation? Now that we have a new president, what kind of support, or what do you think the president or the federal government should be looking at to get money? Because many Nigerians are also wondering, look, if the CBN has been providing monies to supplement the budget, or to meet the budget deficits, then where does all of the loans that the federal government had taken in the last 7 years gone to? What does that say about the transparency in our economy and government?
The thing is, it is more like, like when your house is burning, instead of putting out the fire, you result into coordinate, try to call off some part of the house so that one part is burning, the other part you are trying to put out the fire, so instead of putting out the whole fire. One cannot extricate this current administration from the former one, because they are all based on the same political platform. The thing that needs to be done right now is that this administration just needs to come out clean with the economic justice that I spoke of. There are people who must be held accountable for the policy choice that they took over the last 8 years, from 2015, that threw the country into 2 recessions, that destroyed the value of the currency, that created a big division between the haves and the haves not, which we economists call the Gini coefficient. That is the difference between the income distribution within an economy is huge, is wider now. That has made Nigeria the poverty capital of the world. This administration needs to start thinking clearly. They have started wrongly, by my assessment. 1, by how they removed the petrol subsidy. 2, how they floated the naira. 3, how they have responded to management of this crisis with regards to palliatives, and look at what is happening to the value of the currency as against the dollar. If we for one, I think that the Nigerian economy is highly dollarized. Pardon my French. That means over dependence on the United States dollars. I think that the way around it, because truth be told, we are a heavily import-dependent economy, hence our over-dependence on the dollars. For manufacturers to have, GSK just closed its operation in Nigeria. What is the reason? Forex, FX. So I'm saying that I want to start by saying that there is no silver bullet. There are no quick fixes. The mistakes have already been made. What now needs to be done is not even so much as palliatives, or what do you call it, welfare intervention programs. No. We just need to focus on the fundamentals of the economy. 1. 2, we need to balance fiscal and macroeconomic policies so that they are not adverse to each other but are complementary to each other. What happened in the previous administration of President Muhammadu Buhari was that the fiscal and the monetary policies were adverse to each other. And then we keep looking at textbook economics, which doesn't work in the Nigerian space. Reason I say that, you have over, quote me, 70% small and medium scale businesses that are not covered in the financial sector. They are not banked. So for instance, CBN raised interest rates. It only affects about 30% of the economy. CBN wants to use one of its instruments, the open market operation, the open market operation, to reduce liquidity in the market. It only affects 30% of the economy. So what we are saying is that we need of sound minds, that we sit down together, look at the structure, the fundamentals of the Nigerian economy, and have only one agenda: how to move Nigerian economy from consumption to production. This thing that Peter Obi was saying is not a campaign phrase. It is not a campaign phrase. It's just common sense. We just need to produce. How about we start with what we eat? Look at the challenges in rice importation and rice production across the three largest producers in the world: China, India, and Malaysia. They now started restricting rice. There's flood in China. So, I mean, you are down the line, you are going to get increases in rice. And Nigeria has a shortfall of over about 4 million metric tons of rice, and annually we only produce about 6, and we consume about close to 8 million metric tons. So annually, what we are saying is start with food production. If the conversation from this administration, not focusing on the war in Niger, those are not the issues, but in Nigerians. It is hunger, it is poverty, it is desperation, it is hope. When we look down the road, we don't see anything that will get better. We're talking about pump price of petrol of 720 naira. What we're saying is, let us start small. We are in the rainy season. How can you support farmers? How can you clear more land? How can you focus on agriculture, farming of rice, growing of cassava, growing of potato, growing of tomatoes, growing of pepper, growing of corn, millet? How can you assist local farmers? Government has to intervene directly into these sectors. How can you give farm implements, seedlings? How can you get state governments to quickly, because the federal government doesn't own land, state government own land, earmark places for farm areas, and say that in the next 9 months, by the time we start harvesting, we'll have grown food production to X amount, thereby reducing or halting inflation. Now, how do you reflect local economies as fast as possible? Because it is demand and supply. If you don't have the disposable income, the purchasing power to buy these commodities, how will economic activities take place? We are saying that we need to reflect the 774 local government areas as fast as possible, that is in the rural areas. Just start with investing or injecting 50 million naira in the 774 local governments simultaneously, and do that by comparative advantage. If it is in agriculture, invest 50 million there in that particular local government, and watch it recirculate within those local governments, and you see that life can be improved. If it is in making blocks to build culverts and bridges, please go ahead. If it is to grow cassava, go ahead. If it is to process cassava, go ahead. If it is to grow rice, go ahead. How can you this subsidy they are talking about, why don't you consider putting it in fertilizer and in farm implements, so that to bring the prices down and distribute to Nigerians? Government must intervene. Governments all over around the world subsidize certain things. So, my dear brother, if you ask me truly as an economist, I can go on and on to what government can do. This rhetoric of sitting down in Abuja and speaking big English and wearing Bakare and all of those kind of things, it will not solve this problem. Government needs to roll up its sleeves, certain levels of partnerships. If you ask me, Adakole Jogi, I will tell you partnership, G to G partnership, government to government partnerships, federal government to state government partnerships, federal government to local government partnerships. We need to start producing, and agriculture is where to start from to stem food inflation. And then, two, the economic team that this administration needs to assemble, like I said, needs a clear, thought out fiscal and monetary policy structure. What are we going to do with these three very dangerous instruments that have been destroying the Nigerian economy? One, forex. How can you get forex? You reduce the demand, because what you have now is a demand pushed exchange rate challenges that we have. The amount of forex that we have is so little, but the demand is high. Hence, the almost 1,000 naira at the parallel market, 1,000 naira exchange rate to the dollar. So how do you get that down? How do you remove the overdepend or the demand on float, the currency? Do we have the fundamentals to back a floated currency? What is the long-term plan for it? Are we considering joining the BRICS nations? Are we also backing our currency with gold reserves? Are we backing it with, there are different models. The kind of rhetorics that needs to come out of this administration should be a clearly thought out arrangement to say, this is where we are going. The government is partnering with three leading international firms to dig no more illegal mining of gold in Zamfara. Federal government has taken over. We are partnering with three international gold natural commodities firms, and we are going to use that gold to back the Nigerian naira. Such rhetoric, just watch what will happen to the naira in the international market, whether it's in Wall Street or in London.
Interesting perspective.
Certain things. It is not one thing, my dear brother. Not one thing. It is multiple serious things. So we have serious problems. So we need serious people to solve this problem, to think it out through clearly and start implementing it as quick and fast as possible, because the Nigerian economy is hemorrhaging, it is bleeding, it is worse than the last 8 years. The current state of the Nigerian economy, and of course we are going to go into a recession. Not my words. What is today's date? Go and mark it. The Nigerian economy in the next 3 months will go into recession.
Well said. Let's hold that thought there. I would love us to stay on a little more on the the forex rates and the idea of the floating of the naira. We're talking on that some more. Just give us a moment. The conversation continues here on your radio experience. You can count on. We'll pay some bills now, and we'll continue the conversation. Keep it locked.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
At Stella Maris Nursery and Primary School, we do not only encourage our kids to dream of success, we teach them to get up every morning and make it happen. With over 25 years of stellar educational magic, dedicated and qualified staffs, conducive and serene environment spread across Abuja, you can be sure that quality education is at your doorstep. So what are you waiting for? Make learning fun and exciting for your little ones today. The dates for entrance exams are 24th June and 12th August 2023 respectively. For more enquiries, call 0809 037 3727 or check us online at smsabuja.com. Stella Maris campuses are at Area 1, Life Camp and Wumba, Abuja.
Eagles 102.3 Abuja.
Adakole Ijogi joining us in this conversation this morning, providing fresh ideas as to how we can move the country forward and the economy forward itself. You can join the conversation shortly. We'll open up the phone lines. Keep these numbers really close: 090-7353-0044 and 090-8766-8888. Now, Mr. Ijogi, let's talk about that. The dollarization you mentioned earlier. Someone had called it this morning to say, why do we always talk about the dollar, the dollar when we live in Nigeria and our currency is the naira? Why is the dependency on the dollar and the dollar conversation in general every time we mention the Nigerian economy? What do you think is the reason for this, and how can we move past this conversation of the dollarization of the Nigerian economy?
Simple, because Nigeria is a heavily import-dependent economy. The reason why we talk about dollars is because we buy most of our the ones that we produce here. We buy most of our raw materials they are denominated in the US dollars. Well, then the ones that we don't produce here, the ones that we import, like the rice that we import, the beans that we import from neighboring Chad or Cameroon, the dollar is the international currency, the world's reserved currency. So that's what we trade in. We import toothpicks, we import tomato paste, we import all of these things, and they are not denominated in naira; they are denominated in dollars, because the dollar is the world's reserve currency. It's a simple answer to that.
Now, how about those? What does the CBN? Yes.
Your second part of the question is, how are we going to stop the dependence on the dollar? This thing is simple. We'll start producing locally. When we start producing locally, then we will stop. We will reduce the pressure on looking for the United States dollars. The simple is as basic as it's not a complicated answer. Just start producing your own stuff. When you start producing your own stuff, you don't need to import from other countries, thereby leading the dollar to buy or to do the exchange rate.
So what about the spending of dollars in Nigeria? And is a regulator, Nigerians should expect that services and goods bought within the country should have been done in the naira. Further strengthening the naira. How do we move past that?
You're right, my dear brother. It is actually illegal to trade any other currency within the Nigerian space that is not naira. It is illegal. It should. I think the government needs to step up with the appropriate rule of law to enforce this law, because first and foremost, you shouldn't. I hear people pay their children's school fees in dollars. People would buy land, office space in dollars. They are denominated in dollars. It is a crime. If you ask me, I think that it should even be. There should even be. They should increase the punishment. You want to pay your children's denomination your children's school fees in dollars? Why? That will also help in reducing the pressure of the dollar, because it is an offense. I can't even. If I had some more time, I will go and sort it out from the CBN app. It's an offense to spend a currency that is not the naira within the Nigerian economy. So I think that particular part should be enforced, my dear brother.
Well said. Well said. Let's bring in callers now. Some of the callers have been waiting for a bit to join the conversation. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome.
I find out they say the phone where we they use. That is why the dollars increase. Now we are buying the phone, now the dollar is increased. I want to ask, our own government, our own Nigeria will not fit produce this phone where we they use. Where this anything where they affect all other outside countries, they affect us. Why is it be like this? Okay, look at the gas for where we